Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom. How's it going?
Eventually, I'm fine, I guess. Took a while to get there. Tony, I know it's kind of cliche to do weather chat at the beginning of one of these shows, but we're going to be out at camps later this week, and boy howdy, it's going to be a little warm. And got up this morning. I go for runs a couple times a week with my son as he's training for his hockey season, and got up and did a run this morning. And I was like, boy, it's not very hot, but it's pretty muggy. And I looked, 92% humidity. Tony, that's I know you're not necessarily the math guy on this podcast, but that's pretty high. That's pretty much as high as it can get. So it was a little sticky. Might be air conditioning might be the MVP of everyone's week this week.
Well, and certainly it was your MVP as you were driving behind your son in the car while he is running.
Honking the horn, faster. Yes.
I'm also looking at the weather because I'm hoping to be there at least Thursday for the 7-on-7. And it starts at like the camp, the tournament thing starts from it goes from 10 to 5. And the thunderstorms are scheduled as thunderstorms are for the 4 o'clock, hour. So I'm hoping by then you're down to 4 teams and then you just move them all into the WAC. Move them inside, don't have to worry about the rain. But I was glad to see that at least on different apps, the high has moved from 97 on Tuesday to 94. So that will be a relief.
Yes, nice. Finally, a cold front blows through, and it's only 94 on Tuesday instead. Yes, that's going to be. It is going to be a hot one, Tony. Maybe 7 inches in the midday sun. That's what I'm. I mean, that's the forecast, but that's just what my weather app said. I don't know if that's 100% accurate.
Tom, speaking of hot ones, we are doing some listener questions. We got a bunch. I asked for some, and I got a lot. So we'll have some for the foreseeable future. We'll also talk some camps this week as well, but it's a Monday. We got nothing going on. So we thought we'd get to some listener questions. And like I said, there's a bunch. There's some interesting questions as well, which I'm looking forward to getting to, Tom.
Yeah, I started looking through these. I was like, okay, I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that. And then the third one is like, oh boy, ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So we'll get to that one in a minute. But we're going to first, another good one from @drum_lords. I wanted to ask how having an offense like Ohio State's would affect Jim Knowles' game plan or scheme on the defensive side. What might we see from the defense this fall in terms of a philosophy aimed at synergizing with such an explosive offense?
I think this is an interesting question because you are giving Jim Knowles, he has an offense on the other side of him that is going to average 45 points a game. Some days it'll be more, some days it'll be less, but that gives him some free rein to be pretty aggressive in how he does things because, oh no, you just gave up a touchdown to Nebraska. Well, it's a good thing you're already up 28-7, stuff. So there's going to be some, it's not quite bowling with the guards in the gutters, but you do have some room for failure when you have this offense. Now, you better get home with those or else there's no point in being that aggressive. Just swinging for the fences when you're 3 feet away from the ball is dumb. And so they need to connect with some of those. But I do think, Tom, it gives them quite a bit of leeway. And I think Ryan Day wants an aggressive defense. So this is Jim Knowles' opportunity for him to give that. And he's got some freedom, got some security, some insurance because of the offense.
Exactly. There's some margin for error there where if you give up a big play because you took a chance, who cares? Because the offense is going to get it back for you in 4 plays and 82 yards in a minute and 13 seconds. So it doesn't really matter that you gave it up. He is, Knowles, I think, is going to have a nice balance. This is not going to be, double egg that gap blitz on every play where, we can take a chance. It's like, well, you're going to take strategic chances. You have the opportunity to do some crazy stuff. And, I've talked to Ross Fulton about Knowles a little bit, over the course of the year. And he's talked about how he will go cover 0, not have a deep guy and, bring pressure and be a little bit more unpredictable than you've probably seen from Ohio State in recent years. When you have an offense that's putting up a lot of points, you can take those chances and you got to do it smartly. You're not going to do it 7 times on one drive, but you can do it you can do it at a time when it might be a little unexpected because if you get burned, like, well, it's not the end of the world. This is, when I look at these kind of questions, a lot of times I think of like the air raid teams or the triple option teams that are like way on one end of the spectrum or another in terms of, 80% run or 80% pass or whatever. Those teams have defenses that during practice just don't get to work against, when they're going one-on-one, they don't get to work against like half of the game. So those are defenses that run into trouble because of the offenses that they're going up against in practice. This feels like a defense that's probably going to benefit a lot from the offense that it's going up against in practice, because you're going to be, they're going to try and be balanced. You've got a very good running back coming at you. You've got some very good wide receivers coming at you. You've got a very smart play caller on the other side of the ball coming at you. And, conversely, I think the offense is going to benefit a lot from going up against this defense this year, because, that was something we heard a little bit during the course of the spring about CJ Stroud seeing all this different stuff that he hadn't seen before. And now he, number one, you're learning to deal with that stuff on the fly. But number two, now you've seen a bunch more stuff. So, I think that's going to be a mutually beneficial thing for both sides of the ball. Next one from @Tony_Lisa13. Dylan Raiola is said to be recruiting others to the class. Do any current or former players recruit as well? And there are restrictions on this, is my understanding, that you can, guys with prior relationships, if you went to high school with someone, I think you can, or if you know each other and you're friends, that's fine. You can't like seek people out specifically to do that, is my understanding. And I know there's some restrictions in terms of former players as well. A lot of times that'll happen on like official visits, like, hey, Paris Johnson's visiting Ohio State, and look, hey, Orlando Pace is here. Now, Orlando Pace has a son on the team, or who was being recruited at the time. So it's like, okay, there's a reason Orlando Pace is here, but also it probably wasn't a coincidence that those two guys bumped into each other. So, you can do it to a certain degree, but a lot of times there are a bunch of those like ticky-tack NCAA rules about what you can and can't do. And, basically the equivalent of the coach bump rule, where like, oh, you can bump into a player and just sort of say hi if you're visiting his high school, but you can't like seek him out. And then people will sort of work within those rules as they, there's a spectrum of bumps, I would say, in terms of, how coaches approach that rule. So there's a bunch of those kind of rules. So you can't necessarily do it in the same way. I don't know that you can necessarily have current players. CJ Stroud has a group text with all the quarterback recruits. I don't know that you can necessarily do something like that. But, the current recruits have no restrictions at all. So that's why you hear probably the most about those guys.
I also think quarterbacks are different. So he may have, like, they all go to the same camps. They know all of the same quarterback gurus. So they may all have prior relationships for the past like 7 years, because if you're going to be any kind of quarterback, you better start early. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there are some groups like that. And, and we see when these players go to, when the existing players, the current college players, will go to quarterback camps to help out, or other kind of camps to help out. CJ Stroud may be recruiting Dylan Raiola or whomever, and not necessarily recruiting, but just conversing. And when they go to like the Manning Academy type of thing, and you have all of these college quarterbacks, all of these high school quarterbacks, I would expect some of these guys are putting in good words for their schools, but also a lot of the feedback you hear from that is how they keep it real, and they tell them it's not easy, it is tough. And of course, obviously, current players do some of the recruiting on the official visits as hosts and things like that. But yeah, the bump in the former players who are on campus for whatever, it's the spring game or homecoming or whatever, the former captain's dinner where all the former captains come back. I think they also interact with players then as well. So there are rules, and some of these rules lend themselves to all kinds of secondary violations that don't even equate to a slap on the wrist, but it's just it's one of those things where, well, we got rules, you've broken them. No, there are no real punishment, but try not to do it again. And when you do, just next time, try not to do it again after that.
Try not to do it again, and if you do, try not to get caught so we don't have to do the paperwork again. Yeah, that's there seems like there's a good bit of that in NCAA enforcement over the years. Next one from Matt MPR8, and he's going to credit someone else here. A great question at Dubsco posted on Twitter. If you could turn one loss in Ohio State football history into a win, but you'd have to trade it with an equally valued win by making that a loss, what would the win and loss be? We were talking before the show. You have a great answer for this.
Yeah, the first one that came to my mind were the back-to-back Clemson games. You give Ohio State the Clemson win in the 2019 season. You take away the win against Clemson in 2020. For one, the win in 2020 just leads to an Alabama butt whooping. And if you instead give the win to the 2019 Ohio State team over Clemson, they go on to much better equipped to fight for a national title, albeit against Joe Burrow and that LSU offense. But that was a game that it's one of my sports I wishes or sports like fails where never seeing Ted Ginn run the 40 at the combine, not getting to see Ohio State's secondary and defense against that LSU offense. And when I say Ohio State's secondary, I also include Chase Young in that. And just getting to see those two things combined, and then also having to watch LSU try to defend Ohio State's running game, Justin Fields in the passing game, I think that would have just been a tremendous game. They were more well-equipped to deal with LSU than Clemson. I think that Clemson win in 2020 was huge for the players and the program, and it was a culmination of a year of just a difficult year. But also they were so focused on that game throughout the year, through the off season. We've seen the videos of just some of the focus on Clemson, where it kind of became the Michigan game, especially once that Michigan game got taken away. And so that, to me, it was a devastating loss in the way that it happened in 2019, a huge win for so many different reasons. But I think if you flip those, you have an overall greater outcome.
Yeah, that 2019 Ohio State defense against Joe Burrow and LSU, and that 2019 Ohio State offense against the LSU defense, like I would have loved to see that, because that 2019 Fiesta Bowl was one of those games where it was like 10 things needed to go wrong for Ohio State in order to lose that game, and somehow all 10 of those things went wrong. And I think we walked out of that stadium that night saying, like, I don't think the better team won that game. And that's one that I really do wish we had gotten a chance to see that. I had a couple that kind of came to mind. One was trade the 1998 win over Michigan for the 1997 game against Michigan, where Ohio State would have ended with one loss in both seasons. But then, Ohio State ruins Michigan's national championship season. So, I mean, from Ohio State's perspective, it's kind of a fair trade. From Michigan's perspective, it is probably not, which, I would think that, Ohio State fans would probably be okay with that. Another one that kind of came to mind is like trade one of the wins in, a signature win in a bad season for another one. So like trade like the 2011 Wisconsin game for like the 1988 Michigan game. Because then John Cooper beats Michigan. They were 4-6-1 that season. So then John Cooper beats Michigan his first year. They're 5-5-1. And, and then who knows what that does for history moving forward. If he wins his first Michigan game, then maybe that doesn't turn into such a debacle for him over the years. I think the answer to me, though, is the 97 and 98 Michigan games, because you end up with a very similar position for Ohio State. Ohio State finished second in 98. They probably would have been second in 97 behind Nebraska in the end, with a one-loss season. So it's kind of from Ohio State's perspective, pretty much the same. But, the detriment, if you had to keep everything similar from the Ohio State side, I'm sure Ohio State fans would be okay with something that really is a real detrimental outcome to Michigan.
Let me ask you about this one, Tom. What if you trade the 2003 Michigan loss for the 2006 Michigan win? With that win in 2003, you probably make the BCS title game, and you face LSU. Because we already know what happened in 2006. So it's like, well, there's at least a chance that you're going to win that 2003 season national title. But what about, because that 2006 1 versus 2, you don't want to give that up, but it leads to a Florida loss, a 41-14 shellacking in the desert, would people be willing to give up that 2006 Michigan win for a chance at the 2003 national title?
I think this kind of is very much in line with your other one, where it's like you're trading a loss in the penultimate game of the season that ended with a loss anyway. So, you're taking a loss one game earlier. And I think that's a viable option. If you can trade, a certain BCS loss for a, uncertain BCS result. Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Like Craig Krenzel handing it off to Lydell Ross. I mean, an explosive offense like that.
I may have changed my mind. What if we traded all the games from that season? No. I think one of the side benefits, if we really want to follow the rabbit trail down, the side benefit to Ohio State not having the 2011 Wisconsin game is Ohio State's not bowl eligible. And then maybe the NCAA doesn't give them another year of bowl ban in 2012 because they got to go to a bowl game in 2011. And then, then Urban Meyer's 12-0 team goes to Indianapolis and whomps on a bad Nebraska team, and then gets to go play Notre Dame in the BCS the BCS championship game, and maybe get another national championship there. So, boy, for as much as things have gone well for Ohio State, it's like, boy, you could change a couple little things here or there and get much different results that people might prefer. All right, next one from @Larry_Legend9. What are the expectations on Cam Brown this season?
I think there's a wide range of possibilities for Cam Brown. This is his 5th year. He is a starting Ohio State cornerback, so you should be very, very good. You should be an all Big Ten caliber player. However, I think we saw last year with Sevyn Banks, that's not the case. You're not just... It used to be assumed, and now it can no longer be assumed. However, I do think Cam Brown, when healthy, is very good and will be in that all Big Ten space now, second, third, first team. He doesn't quite have the name recognition of Denzel Burke or Riley Moss at Michigan or at Iowa, so there's going to be some difficulty there. And a lot of times, if you're really, really good, they don't throw you the ball, so you don't get seen anyway. So there's some difficulty there, but I think he could be, and this is where I go back to, you're an Ohio State starting cornerback. The ceiling is 1st round draft pick. The basement is 5th round draft pick to me, honestly. And so he's going to be somewhere in there, but he's very, very fast. If he's healthy, I expect him to be very good. That's the biggest question. That's the unanswerable part of this is how healthy will he be? But I think if he stays healthy, I'm not going to be shocked to see him as a 1st rounder, probably more likely a 2nd or 3rd rounder, but a very good corner and a guy who probably won't have to play every snap like they did a little bit last year. But as long as he's healthy, I have very high expectations for him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He is someone who, has the 1st round sort of measurables, it feels like. If he can stay healthy, can stay on the field. When he's been on the field, he's been good. It's just he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So if he has a year where he's healthy, can show that he can stay healthy, stay on the field, that removes one of the big concerns that I'm sure NFL teams might have with him. And if Denzel Burke and Cam Brown are both healthy, and then you've got J.K. Johnson and Jordan Hancock kind of waiting in the wings, like, boy, this could be a real good Ohio State defense. There's a reason that when we did our kind of like 4 looming questions for this year's team on the Monday Morning Scoop, that the cornerbacks did not come up. It feels like you've got a pretty sure thing in Denzel Burke. You've got a sure thing if he's healthy in Cam Brown. And then you got a couple guys they're pretty confident in behind them. It feels like one way or the other that's going to work out. And it would Cam Brown's been around for so long. He's, nice kid, and you'd like to see this work out for him. And it's just, his body has failed him at times. It would be really great if he could have a nice, healthy year and then cash in on that in the draft next spring. From another one from @Millamillions. Anything new with Kourt Williams? How has he been in practice? What practice and position has he been lining up at? Haven't heard about him in a while. The new thing with Kourt Williams is he was kind of banged up a little bit this spring. He didn't play in the spring game. Right now, he's at that bandit or boundary safety position. He and Josh Proctor are kind of lining up there. They've got that's where Ronnie Hickman played last year. They've moved Ronnie Hickman to the deep safety, the adjuster spot. So, the new, the latest stuff with Kourt Williams is he's been banged up a little bit again. You could take a lot of the stuff I said about Cam Brown and apply it to Kourt Williams. He just, and you haven't seen as much of Kourt Williams because he's just been banged up and just has not been consistently healthy at any point since he's been at Ohio State. But, if he's healthy, he could be, obviously an impact player potentially there at that boundary safety spot.
It's interesting. Do you know where Kourt Williams finished on the team in terms of tackles last year, like where he ranked?
I have absolutely no idea.
10th, which surprising to me. 28 tackles on the season. Now, 14 of those came in like the last 3 or 4 games. He started the Rose Bowl. And the snap counts, and one of my tabs that I always have open, we talk about Dan Hope at 11 Warriors and the snap counts that he has. It's permanently open in my browser. Kourt Williams played more than Ronnie Hickman in the Rose Bowl, which I didn't realize, and because of the style of offense. And so he has that ability, and we've talked on the Morning Scoop Monday morning about how Jim Knowles has some concerns about his ability to defend the pass, but he has ability in certain aspects, and the key is removing those certain aspect qualifications. But safeties, if you look over the years at Ohio State, maybe it's like this everywhere else. I only pay really close attention to Ohio State, but how many times has Ohio State gone into the season with a safety, be it free safety or strong safety, who then plays poorly and they figure out this guy can't play and then doesn't play again? Like you can, like 2005, I think, with Nick Patterson starts out at free safety and is really bad early on, and then they find like Anderson Russell and he moves in. You can move fast forward to the more recent days of 2018 with Isaiah Pryor, and then they went to Jocelyn Went before they landed on Brendan White. You've got Marcus Hooker playing and starting in 2020, and then by the end of the season is only getting time on special teams, and not even necessarily then. Last year you had Cameron Martinez comes in for a couple games in the slot and is starting and might be the solution there. And then his playing time goes way down. Marcus Williamson is a solution. His playing time goes way down. You have a plan and you think you know what's going to happen. And I'm not even talking about injuries. I'm just talking about they find out the players can't play and then they disappear. And it's just funny how the coaches always say it, how you find out more, you learn more from games than you do from practice. And they can go into a season thinking they've got something, and then they find out during a game that they don't. And then we saw it last year when they lost Josh Proctor, and we talked about it on the Morning Scoop. Everything changes. Now, what does that have to do with Kourt Williams? It's a safety position, so I tangented a little bit, but he's Jim Knowles loves him, but if he's playing, then Josh Proctor isn't, and so there's some difficulties there. Unless I do think Josh Proctor can move to free safety, but when he's playing, then Ronnie Hickman isn't, and so you can rotate them, but that means somebody's coming out.
Right, and sometimes this stuff works itself out where someone gets hurt, and then ta-da, you don't have a problem anymore because now you have the right number of guys for the right number of positions, and that's 3 guys for 2 positions is not the worst problem to have if all 3 of them can play. But with Proctor had a pretty significant injury last year. Williams has had health issues over the years. It feels like this is one of those things that's going to work itself out. But you're right, and I had not thought about that. But that is a pretty remarkable pattern. That feels, I don't know that I can think of another position that has been that many times you've come into a season with one guy, and then a few games in, it's just like nope, and now there's a new guy because that you never know until the bullets start flying. But it does feel like that's a little bit out of the ordinary in terms of positions, where you've had so much turnover just mid-season. So next one from at Eric E. Nichols. Will the NIL lead to quicker fan disapproval / Bronx cheering when CJ Stroud throws his second interception in the first half, or Trevion Henderson fumbles at the goal line, or Denzel Ward gives up the ghost on a deep ball? I'm thinking NIL will have fans bringing the heat earlier than ever. Damn sad.
Good on you. And Tom is reading abbreviations, so the DW I'm assuming means Denzel Burke.
Oh yeah, Denzel Burke. Yeah, I was like Doug Worthington. I don't think that's
Donald Washington. I don't. Well, Donald Washington should not be playing. I'm just going to say it. That's NCAA violation. These are all forfeited games if you have somebody's eligibilities out. But I don't think it leads to quicker boos. I think it leads to fans expressing their justification. And it's like, because I remember CJ Stroud being booed last year when nobody knew anything about any of his NILs. And I've seen Ohio State's offense or defense booed off the field. And so fans are going to boo. Now they will say they have more justification for doing it. And I don't know if it makes it happen quicker. It may make it louder. And they, like I said, they'll feel more justified in doing it because I just think fans have been quick to boo anyway. So how do you get quicker to boo? I don't know.
Yeah, it just feels like it's just going to be more of a rationalization than anything. Like, well, you always said I couldn't boo because they were amateurs. Well, now they're not amateurs anymore, so now I can boo. Like, okay, like this would not be the first time. You've heard people get booed just about everywhere. Nebraska has gotten booed, for goodness sakes. Like Nebraska, which never booed the opposing team. They've started booing Nebraska players at times. It feels like that this is just, people doing what they want to do. And now they can kind of use this as a fig leaf of, oh, well, now they're basically professionals and now I can do it anyway. It's like, well, they're still like 18 years old. So, you don't necessarily have to do that. And this is perhaps a little bit of an expansion on the just because something comes into your head doesn't mean you have to say it out loud kind of thing. Like that's something you might want to write down for life in general. But yeah, I have a feeling you probably will hear a little bit more, and that will be sort of the rationalization for it. But I think you're also going to have a lot of people who keep things in perspective a little bit more and don't feel the need to do it. I still don't, this is not going to be the majority of fans or anything like that, but you will definitely have, it's the same thing as, well, look at how much tickets cost now. So, so I better get a good performance if I'm going to pay this much for my tickets. It's like the players aren't the ones in charge of setting ticket prices. Like, don't go boo the ticket office. I don't know.
Yeah, everybody's looking for justifications to expose their anger to everybody, which is basically society now. I think it's a societal issue more than an NIL issue. It's not like youth umpires are making NIL, yet they still take abuse. So I saw what you drove in here, UM blank blank, and it's like, no, it's not because of how much he's making. That $40 that he made for that game, while it is a lot of money and it's enough to live on, does not necessarily justify and rationalize your desire to tell him what you think about his mother and the rest of his family. I just think it's, you see it on social media, you see it in regular everyday life, you see it at Kroger, you see it on the highway. People are very quick to anger and then even quicker to justify it, and having players making more money than the fans is certainly going to be fuel for some. But again, I think I don't know that it necessarily, and I may be wrong. I think people are quick to boo bad performances anyway. I don't know that this makes it quicker, but I do think it may make it louder. I think it's going to get worse on social media, and it's never going to get better. It can only get worse in all aspects.
The only guaranteed prediction: it's going to get worse on social media. 100%. No, you don't even need to go back and check his work. The answer is yes. That is what's going to happen. Next one from @Ramy Mora. How will NIL impact the NFL draft in the future? Will kids stay in longer in school with these payments? Will the NFL have to pay more to get these kids to leave early? I think you might see guys stick around for an extra year in certain cases. You'll have certain, if CJ Stroud is going to be a first round top 5 pick, CJ Stroud's leaving whether he's got a Bentley this year or not. Or what it ended up being, a Mercedes. It was a Bentley, and then it wasn't a Bentley, it was something else. But whatever it was, whatever CJ Stroud's driving this year, he will be driving
a Bentley from Wish.
He will be driving it. There you go. He will be driving it to the NFL draft next year, because if you're a top 5 pick, you're a top 5 pick. you do have guys who, are maybe the mid-round pick kind of guys who are, in previous years were, I need to do this so I can get a house for my mom and get my mom out of a bad neighborhood or whatever it is. Some of those guys may be in a position to stick around and try and improve their draft status if they're going to, if you're going to make $250,000 or whatever a year, maybe you can stick around for another year and try and improve your draft status long term. So you may see some of it. I don't think this is going to be a massive shift in terms of the number of underclassmen who turn pro early, but I think I think you're going to maybe see some edge cases where that's true. Will the NFL have to play more to get these kids to leave early? The NFL draft isn't the NFL draft hard slotted right now? So that is something that I think would have to be collectively bargained, that they would change the hard slotting for those draft pick spots. So that's probably not going to happen. And I don't know that the NFL is that worried about, the 3 4th round picks who are going to stick around for another year. That's not going to materially change the quality of play in the NFL. If college was paying these guys $20 million a year and everyone was staying for 5 years, then okay, maybe you're going to see some impact at the NFL level, but we're not anywhere close to that right now.
The Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, Iowa State quarterback, his deal is 4 years, $3.7 million, and the base salary on that is $724,000 for this year with a $77,000 signing bonus. So basically $80,000 or $800,000 to play in his rookie year. I think there will be, and maybe Brock Purdy would have been a perfect example of somebody at Iowa State who is not a top NFL prospect, but could keep Iowa State in contention for the playoffs, where it would behoove him to stay for $500,000 or $1 million and could actually be paid more in one season than he would in the NFL. It's going to take situations like that, or, the middle of the, say, 3rd round. That's about where the $1 million per year ends in terms of, salary. So is that, I think Denzel Burke is not a good example, but for like maybe a Sean Wade type where he expected to be drafted much higher, but by the end of the season, you knew it wasn't going to happen. So is that something where he's got, say, $400,000 worth of deals? Does he stick around for another year to try to improve? Although the longer he sticks around, the lower his stock gets. So it's not just going to be a monetary thing. It's going to be a trajectory thing. I do think it will keep some, but it's very situational and you can't just apply it to everybody.
No, definitely not. There's a lot of factors that go into all these decisions, and I don't think it's going to materially change anything. You're not going to see 50 extra guys staying in a given year or anything like that. You may have, like I said, some edge cases, whether it's the Brock Purdy kind of guy or someone who has a real chance to improve his draft stock in a year. But I don't think there's going to be a massive shift in the player pool for the NFL draft or anything like that. Last one.
Last one. All right. I wasn't sure. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're fine. We're at 45 minutes.
We're at 33 minutes. Goodness. Learn to tell time.
Never.
Last one from @JumpFrog1. Why does it still appear that offensive recruitment is so far ahead of defensive recruitment? Where are the occasional 5-star guys, 23 and 24, to push these classes into the upper echelons? One of the things that I think is an important thing to remember here is they just completely overhauled the defensive coaching staff. So you have a new defensive coordinator, new linebackers coach, new cornerbacks coach, new safeties coach. The offensive staff, outside of the offensive line spot, is pretty much status quo. So you're seeing consistent success in quarterback recruiting. You're seeing consistent success in wide receiver recruiting. You're seeing pretty good success at running back recruiting. These are all coaches who've been around for a while. Larry Johnson has had pretty good success in defensive line recruiting. He's been around for a while. Sometimes it's going to take a little while to build up the relationships with guys like Justin Fry, for Jim Knowles, for Tim Walton, for Perry Aliano. Those guys will start building relationships, and then you end up with better players. There's also a little bit of a cause and effect there, where some of those positions where they were not getting necessarily talent every year, some of those are positions where they turn those positions over. So there's a little correlation causation thing going on there as well. But with almost a complete overhaul of the defensive coaching staff, you would expect it to take you're not immediately day one going to be getting all the best players in the country the first day you walk on campus.
Yeah, and official visits are going on right now. Ohio State just wrapped one up with 5-star defensive end Mateo Uiagalelei, and that seemed to go very well. I know a lot of people feel really good about Ohio State's chances there. You have 5-star safety Caleb Downs out of Georgia. A lot of people feel good about Ohio State's chances there. Right now, it's just some of these top prospects, as Tom said, they've got to get to know the coaches. They've got to go through their official visits, and when you are coveted like these guys are, they're going to take all of their visits and they're going to see places. Tackett Curtis, another, going through some visits right now. So obviously things will start to pick up, but yeah, the relationships is the part of it is like you can't speed through that really. Like you can't just wish it away. Like it has to happen, and it has to happen in a good way. Like if these guys aren't making the right connections, then it's going to obviously not work out well. So you've got to put some time in, and it just, like any relationship, it takes time. And now things I think are trending well. Like the guys I just mentioned, there's some other obviously prospects that'll start, I think, once they take their visits, they'll see. And if the guys don't have any more visits, if they use all of their official visits, I don't think they can necessarily get them all in June, but they may have done them in April as well. So there are going to be some guys that are looking to decide before their senior season. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of movement here this summer. And then it begins all over again with the fall official visits and where you try to wrap things up. But I do agree, you need the defense needs to catch up, and not just this year, but consistently. Like it needs to be a place where, like not an NFL factory, but an NFL factory type of thing, because that's what you need if you're going to compete against Alabama, Georgia, Wake Forest, the top programs in the nation.
Yeah, and I think it's way too soon to push the panic button on any of that stuff right now. You're exactly right that it is lagging a little behind, but I think there's easily explainable reasons for why it's lagging a little bit behind right now. So definitely not anything to get too panicked about. But I mean, if 12 months from now we're sitting here and having the same conversation, like, okay, you have my permission to be concerned at that point, but I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, because you look at who has the coaches who have commitments at Ohio State, and Tony Alford, who's been around, Ryan Day, Corey Dennis, who have been around with Dylan Raiola, but the offensive line, it's just Ohio guys. So that's Justin Fry, new coach, trying to build these relationships outside of the boundaries of Ohio. And so it's just a process. Trust the process, and things will work out for another top 5 class. I've done the math. I've done the class calculator on 24/7. It all works out just fine, right up with last year's class, which was also a top 5 class. So definitely not time to panic yet. But Tom, talk to us in December, and then we will tell you if it is time to panic. And if we're still talking about this, is it time to panic in December? Then yes, the time to panic is definitely in December.
Yes, finally something to worry about in December. There's not a very stressful time of year, so finally we'll give you something to worry about in December.
You're welcome. All right, that will do it for this episode. Like I said, we've got a bunch more to go, so we'll piece these out as we go. Got some camps coming up this week, as we said. Looking forward to that. More official visits coming this weekend as well, so plenty to talk about. That will then do it for this show. I want to thank you all for tuning in, as always, and have a good one.